How's it going? This is a follow-up to the State Birds Are Garbage video, so if you haven't seen that, you should go see that first. But to give a quick recap, I always thought it was weird that the flamingo isn't the state bird of Florida. It's the mockingbird, which 5 other states have that as the exact same state bird. It's silly to have duplicate state birds, and there is precedent to change them. In 1948, South Carolina changed theirs to the adorably grumpy Carolina wren. Before that, it was also the mockingbird. But one thing standing in the way of the flamingo becoming the state bird is that the American flamingo isn't considered native to Florida. In fact, in 1927, when they voted on it, there were no flamingos in Florida. Flamingos were imported later from Cuba to Miami to make racetracks seem more tropical. But recently, a bunch of flamingos have started showing up in the Everglades, which seem to be wild. The Conservation of Research Department at Zoo Miami found that flamingos may have been native to Florida in the past, but they were hunted to extinction for their feathers to make hats, or just for their meat. The flamingos spotted in the Everglades may have migrated north, which would make them native to the state and worth observing and protecting, since there was only a small number of them. But the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, the FWC, didn't list flamingos as being a native and threatened part of Florida wildlife. So, in June of 2018, Zoo Miami, along with the support of a few other organizations, submitted a petition to the FWC to evaluate the species status of the flamingo. And that's where the story left off. But 3 years later, this summer, 2021, the FWC has finally released their report, affirming that flamingos are in fact native to Florida. But they didn't grant any extra protections to flamingos, but there's good reason for that. There's been no evidence to show that flamingos are breeding and nesting in Florida, and the historical evidence that they used to is shaky. So they classified flamingos in Florida as a non-breeding visitor. They're already protected by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, which is pretty solid. And while the population in Florida is low, fewer than 1,000, that only makes up 0.1 to 0.2% of the total population of flamingos. If flamingos don't survive in Florida, the species will be just fine. But the good news is, this population in Florida is growing, and this report validates the importance of tracking them. One of the peer reviews from the Spanish National Research Council noted that a population increase of flamingos in the Mediterranean was followed by new breeding colonies. So they recommended that the FWC should annually evaluate the flamingo to see if these colonies start popping up. Another noted that while there was a concern for habitat destruction due to sea level rise, it was likely that the sea level rising would actually create new lagoon flats for them to live in. So that's good. So it's looking like we'll be able to see flamingos reestablished in Florida within our lifetimes. I think this should be the push to finally make the flamingo and the scrub jay, I guess, the state birds of Florida, which I'm sure is the most pressing issue going on in Florida right now. Hey, while I'm here, let's go over some omissions and corrections to the State Birds Are Garbage. I didn't want the video to be too long, so I didn't mention a few state birds, and some people got really mad at that. Odds are, if your state bird is not a duplicate, it's a pretty solid pick. The scissor-tailed flycatcher is really unique, and there's an awesome bridge in Oklahoma City that's inspired by their scissory tails. The Rammer Jammer Yellowhammer is a great bird. Georgia has the Rad Thrasher, and the Baltimore Oriole is a classic, but I also think it's more yellow than orange. But by far the most irate state was Minnesota because I didn't mention the loon. The loon is great, Minnesota. Don't get mad at me. Get mad at Ontario for copying you. By the way, when I talked about Canada having cooler state birds than us, I said they had 2 raptors and 3 owls, but owls are also raptors. Also, this bird's pronounced tanager, not tanger. And this bird's pronounced grouse. You know that feeling when you read a word a bunch of times and you just have the wrong way of pronouncing it in your head? And then you say it in front of the entire class and everyone thinks you're that weird kid that calls her Hermione. But by far the most egregious mistake was that one of my backup non-warbler birds, the Louisiana water thrush, is a warbler. You win this one. Hey, I'm jammed to go. I don't have... No. Help. Hey, I'm Jam to Go. I don't have any sponsors, so I'm gonna do some self-promotion at the end here. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you want to see my next video essay, which I'm currently editing, give a subscribe. Oh, and my big project right now is a video game called Kitten Burst. I just released the trailer last month, a few months ago. I just released the trailer, you should go check it out and wishlist it on Steam if you dig it. That's all for me. Goodbye.